I don't see many reviews out there for a H670 series motherboards. So in today's video, we're going to go over the Asrock's H670M-ITX/AX. I picked this up originally for a different build, however, they ended up going with the Z690 instead. In this video, we're going to go over why this is the best value board in Asrock's ITX lineup. However, will we run into the same issues that Hardware Unboxed had, as they said that they support the latest, hottest 12900Ks? So stay tuned for the testing, as we're going to pair this with the 12700K featuring Asrock's H670 ITX. Let's turn up the heat. So a little about the things that are included in the box are obviously the manual, then we have the CD, and then there's going to be some SATA cables, an Iroh shield, and some M.2 screws. Before we get into this, I wouldn't call myself an expert on motherboards of any kinds like the folks at Hardware Unboxed or actual overclockers, but I'll do my best to highlight some feature sets as well as what I think is important to me or yourself if you're going to be utilizing this motherboard. First off, this features an 8-phase 50 amp Dr. Moss. It has a 7.1 channel HD audio. It supports up to 64 gigabytes of DDR4 up to 5000 megahertz. As well, it has a 2.5 gigabit LAN. It has support for 4 SATA 3.0, as well as 1 PCIe 5.0 slot, and it features 2 Gen 4 M.2s. As well as that, it has the capability for Wi-Fi 6. Alright, so as for the rear panel goes, it features 2 antenna ports, audio interface, a 2.5 gigabit LAN, as well as a 1.0 gigabit LAN, a USB Type-C, 4 USB 2.0 ports, a reset BIOS button, and then as well as a HDMI and DisplayPort for integrated graphics. I'm purely looking at this from a synthetic benchmarking point of view. This is going to be utilized on an open bench table featuring the BC1, as well as a EKWB 240AIO, some 16 gigabit RAM at 3200 megahertz, and obviously the 12700K. However, if you do want to see more of this 12700K in different cases or different builds, maybe featuring a 3070 or 3080 Ti even, definitely don't forget to subscribe down below, as well as to hit the thumbs up button to let me know that I should make more content for you. First off, we're going to just be testing this motherboard and its auto stock features, and then later we'll test it with a higher wattage in the PL1 as well as a slight undervolt. So in the multi-core score at auto settings, it got a R23 score of 21,451, and on the single core, it got a 1950. Now, when we boosted the PL1 in the BIOS menu up to 140 watts, it got up to 21,977. And then on the single core score, it dropped down by 10 points at 1940. Now, applying a slight offset undervolt of negative 50 millivolts, it dropped down drastically in both the multi-core score and the single core score at 13,369 and 1,333. This was also utilizing a R23 10-minute run, by the way. So this is not just a one-time run, but here it is with all the scores combined. Again, auto score is slightly lower than a higher PL1 score, and when you apply an offset of negative 50, it dropped it down drastically in multi-core. And you can see the same things that occur here with the single core score. It dropped it down a lot when we set a negative 50 millivolt offset. When looking at this Asrock board compared to the other ones in its lineup, featuring the Z690 or the B660, what are the various differences that we have here? Well, when you compare this to a Z690, it's basically a cut down version. It doesn't have any overclocking utilizing Intel's software, and the only difference I saw was in the front panel, you had a USB-C header. But then when you compare this to the B660 board, it had a bigger feature set. It had one extra M.2 slot, as well as a 2.5 gigabit LAN on top of the 1 gigabit LAN. Also featuring the PCIe, it's 5.0. And then some small additional stuff like RGB headers, as well as 6 gigahertz antennas for the Wi-Fi. To round this all up, this is a pretty decent board if you're not doing anything crazy with it. Basically, if you're just plugging and playing, I think it's fine for most of you guys. However, if you plan on to maybe even put a 12900K on here, I definitely advise against that. When I was comparing this to the other boards like a Gigabyte B660 or even the Aorus Z690 board, the 50 amp on this one was way different. On the Gigabyte Aorus, it had a 90 amp VRM. As well as the Z690 for Asus, it had up to 105 amps. I couldn't find anything about the B660 on Asus, so take that for what it's worth. So I think if you plan on doing some overclocking, it might not be best to go with the Asrock series, as it's a more value budget brand. I think a plug and play type of deal here. They do say they support 12900K, and this does go up to 150 watts as in the OC BIOS menu. It is honestly a nice looking board. I think this would go very greatly if you had a white Q50A or a white NR200 with the tempered glass panel. I think this would look nice in that with the silver look and the brush finishes here. I haven't looked at properly how to undervolt this, so I think probably just setting a -50 offset is probably not the right thing to do. So if you do have any suggestions, definitely let me know down below how I should properly test and tune to get a better score on my 12700K with a -50 millivolt offset. It is capable of handling a 12700K, but if you do have a 12900K, definitely let me know down below what your testing was like and how it can handle in your situation. Overall, if you want a value brand baseboard, just set on auto settings. I think this is a very good buy without going into the B660 models, as it does have a higher feature set with 2 M.2 slots, both being in the front, especially being in some ITX cases where they're sandwich based, and the M.2 will be in the back. So I definitely highly can recommend picking this up over a Z690 from Asrock or even the B660 from Asrock as well. I think this is the best budget value brand board that it has to offer in its lineup. That's it, folks. And if you guys enjoyed this testing, definitely give me a thumbs up, as well as don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. But in the meantime, with all this testing, I think you should definitely check out this Open Bench Table BC1, and I'll put the link in the review over here. Bye guys, peace.